Stavakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Stavakaya ca dharmasya sarvadharma swarupine Avatara varishtha Ramakrishna te namah Asato ma sadgamaya Tamaso ma jyotirgamaya Mrityormamritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Let us offer our salutations to Sri Ramakrishna, the embodiment of all visions, the Supreme God Incarnate, who came to establish universal religion. Let us pray to Him to lead us from unreal to real, to lead us from the darkness of ignorance to the light of knowledge, to lead us from death to immortality. Today's topic, Sri Ramakrishna's masterly teachings. Sri Ramakrishna's teachings are well given in the Gospel, where Sri Ramakrishna teaches all the spiritual aspirants whatever paths they may follow. Sri Ramakrishna gives a clear instructions. If we follow them, we are sure to reach our spiritual goal. So every step what Sri Ramakrishna has said is most important, and Sri Ramakrishna would always say that we should be really sincere in following spiritual life. We like to do things, but we won't do. We want to be associated with holy people, but we can't do. So, Sri Ramakrishna says that keeping constant company with spiritual ideas, with people who practice spirituality, very important. So, why Sri Ramakrishna is giving so much importance for such company is that one should get rid of the worldliness. Worldliness ruins a person. He totally forgets about his divine innate nature and is carried away by all external, unreal, unpleasant, worldly things. He gets trapped there, unable to get out of it. So, Sri Ramakrishna warns, be careful about your worldliness. You have to be watchful. If you are not watchful, you become more and more worldly and no hope of getting out of it. God is like the wish-yielding tree of the celestial world. It's called Kalpataru, which gives whatever we ask of it. That's the beauty of the Kalpataru tree. So one should be careful to give up all worldly desires when one's mind has been purified by religious exercise. Sri Ramakrishna tells a story to impress upon this point. Once a certain traveler came to a large plain in the course of his travels. As he had been walking in the sun for many hours, he was thoroughly exhausted and heavily perspiring. So he badly needed rest. He sat down in the shade of a tree to rest a while. Presently, he began to think what a comfort it would be if he could but get a soft bed there to sleep on. Just a thought came to his mind. He was not aware that he was sitting under the Kalpataru tree. As soon as the above thought rose in his mind, surprisingly he found a nice bed on his side. He was overwhelmed, but all the same stretched himself on it. Now he thought to himself, how pleasant it would be for a young damsel to come there and gently stroke his legs. No sooner did the thought arise in his mind, suddenly he found most beautiful young damsel sitting at his feet and stroking his legs. No doubt, he felt supremely happy. Then he felt hungry. He thought, I have got whatever I have wished for. Could I not then get some food? Instantly he found various kinds of delicious food spread before him. He at once fell to eating, and having helped himself to his heart's content, stretched himself again on his bed. He now began to revolve in his mind the events of the day. While thus occupied, suddenly he thought, if a tiger should attack me all of a sudden, in an instant a large tiger jumped from him and broke his neck and began to drink his blood. In this way, the traveler lost his life. Now Sri Ramakrishna tells, such is the fate of people in general. If during your meditation you pray for men or money or worldly honors, positions, name, fame, your desires will no doubt be satisfied to some extent. But mind you, there is a dread of the tiger behind the gifts you get. Those tigers, disease, bereavements, loss of honor and wealth, etc., are 1,000 times more terrible than the live tiger. As the water under a bridge enters from one side and passes out at the other, so the spiritual advice given to the people in the world enters the mind through one ear and goes out by the other. They won't stay. People hear, by the time they reach their home, they forget all what they have heard. If you ask them, what did you hear in the lecture? Oh, I don't remember. So that means they don't have any impression left in the mind. What is the characteristic of the worldly people? He is like the mongoose in the tamer's pot. The mongoose tamer fixes a pot high up in a wall to serve as a nest for the animal. He ties one end of a rope round the neck of the mongoose, while the other end is fastened to a weight. Coming out of the pot, the mongoose goes down the wall and wanders about here and there. But when frightened, runs back into the pot to hide itself there. Unfortunately, it cannot stay there long, as the weight at the other end of the rope drags it down from its comfortable home. Similarly, the worldly person is often forced by the high above the world and take refuge in God. But the deadweight chastening influence of the sufferings and miseries of life to soar of the world with all its attraction soon pulls him down. He can't stay in the idea of the divine for a long time. Seeing the gleaming water pass through the passing through the valve of the bamboo trap placed in rice fields, small fish enter the trap with great glee, but having once entered, they can't come out. Similarly, foolish people enter the meshes of the world, lured by its false glitter, but it is much easier to enter than to escape, and they are caught like little fish and imprisoned for good. The fettered ones, the worldlings, they are never awakened. How sorrows assail them, how frauds deceive them, how dangers threaten them, yet they don't wake up, even as the camel, so fond of the prickly bush and the nettle, does not cease browsing on them, though they make its mouth bleed. The man of the world suffers so much, yet in a few days he forgets everything. Perhaps his wife has died, or proved faithless. Lo, he marries again. Or perhaps his child has died, and he weeps, but in a short while everything has slipped out of his memory. And the mother of the child, who has been so overwhelmed with grief, is again looking to her toilet and wearing ornaments and jewels. Parents are impoverished by their daughter's marriage, and yet annually children are born to them. And these people, though ruined by lawsuits, will yet go for litigation. They have not the wherewithal to provide well for their children, yet they will beget more children every year. The worldling is sometimes like a snake that has caught hold of a mole which it can neither swallow nor throw out. Possibly he has come to see that there is nothing substantial in the world, that is all skin and stone like sour sop. Yet he can't forget the world and set his heart on God. If you remove him from a worldly environment, and place him in holy surroundings, he will lose heart and pine away. Even as a worm which lives and thrives on filth will die if kept in a pot of rice. We have seen also many people would come by the boat to Dakshineshwar, and some of them would be very happy to meet, very eager to meet Sri Ramakrishna in his room at Dakshineshwar temple. When some people would sit there to hear what Sri Ramakrishna was talking about, some other people were not interested, and they would say to these friends, well, we will wait for you in the boat. They cannot stand with spiritual ideas. That means mind should be prepared. Without preparation of the mind is really a difficult task. Even if God comes and is ready to give liberation, people are not ready. It was a very funny incident. There was one person, I am speaking about in Bangalore. He would come to ashram very regularly. And it so happened his wife began to go to some place for hearing some spiritual talks. Not ashrama, some other place. And she was so much drawn towards those teachings. I think the Brahma Kumaris, there is an organization called Brahma Kumaris. They have got their own way of teachings. And this lady was so much drawn towards them, and she was trying to follow what they talk, and the husband became very upset. Then he said, look, after 50, I will also come with you. But till 50, you live with me. He literally said that. Actually, that person came to me and told. He told his wife like that. But anyway, amazing part is, the wife could not stay. She went to Brahma Kumaris, and she had one son. Probably he was in America. And she left. And she lived in the Brahma Kumaris place in Bangalore. And do you know what happened? After a few years, this fellow married another woman. That's the fun. If the mind is not ready, we can't enjoy the beauty of the spiritual ideas or spiritual life. But anyway, our life is a training ground. It trains us. It gives direction to us indirectly, sometimes directly, sometimes indirectly. We have to learn. So experiences come to us to teach us the bitter lesson, to teach us what is really real, what is not real. So it takes long time. Coming to ashrama itself is a most difficult task. And afterwards assimilating the ideas, practicing them. You have to do lot of effort, purushaka. You have to make effort. So, One cannot renounce the world even if he wishes, because he is thwarted by the karmas that are bearing fruit in the present birth and by the impressions of previous actions left on the mind. Mind is a cause, and it is a storehouse of all samskaras. Whatever we think and do, they leave impression, whether we want them or not, whether we like them or not. The impressions are created in the mind, and later on we are pulled by the impressions. That's the way it is. Once a yogi asked a king to sit down near him and meditate upon God. The king replied, "No, sir, that cannot be. I can remain near you, but still the thirst for worldly pleasures will be with me. If I remain in this forest, perhaps there will arise a kingdom within it, as I am still destined to enjoy." So that is why Bhagavad Gita says, control the desires, minimize the desires. It's a big process, no doubt. But then, how the devotion of the worldly people, they may perform many pious and charitable acts in the hope of earthly rewards. But at the approach of misfortune, sorrow and poverty, their piety and charity forsake them. They are like the parrot that repeats Radha Krishna, Radha Krishna the livelong day, but cries kang kang when caught by a cat, forgetting the divine name. Therefore, Sri Ramakrishna says, preaching religion to such people will prove useless. In spite of all your sermons, they are sure to remain as worldly as ever. A spring cushion is pressed down when one sits upon it, but soon resumes its shape when the pressure is removed. So it is with worldly people. They are full of religious sentiment as long as they hear religious talk. But as soon as they enter upon the routine of their daily life, they forget all those high and noble thoughts and become as impure as before. Iron appears red hot in the furnace, but becomes black soon after it is taken out. In the same way, worldly people are full of religious emotion as long as they are in a temple or in the company of the pious. But no sooner do they leave these associations than a flood of devotion in them subsides. That is, the devotion is fickle devotion. As a fly now sits on unclean sore and next on offerings to God, so the mind of the worldly person is at one time engaged in religious topics and at the next loses itself in the pleasures of wealth and lust. The heart of the worldly person is like a worm in a dunghill. The worm always lives in the dung and loves to live therein. If by chance someone takes it out of that filthy habitation and puts it on a lotus flower, it will soon die of the fragrance of the flower. So, the worldly person cannot live even for a moment outside the dirty atmosphere of worldly thoughts and desires. The heart of the worldly person is like a worm in a dunghill. So, do you know what worldly people's idea of God is like? These are all words of Sri Ramakrishna. It is like the children's prattle while they play among themselves. Sometimes they swear, saying, "By God, I say." They learn this from their elders when they hear them taking an oath. Or at best, it is like the utterance of the dandy, who with all his foppish air goes to a garden in one of his idle promenades, whistling and twirling his stick about, and picks up a flower and exclaims, "Oh, what a beautiful flower God has made." It's only a momentary mood, like the abiding of a drop of water on a bar of red hot iron. So I say, you must thirst for Him. You will have to take a deep plunge into the ocean. A husbandman was watching a sugarcane field throughout the day. After finishing his task, he saw that not a drop of water had entered the field. All the water had run underground through the several big rat holes. Such is the state of the devotee who worships God, secretly cherishing ambitions and worldly desires in his heart. Though he may be praying daily, he makes no progress because his entire devotion runs to waste through the rat holes of these desires. And at the end of his lifelong devotion, he remains the same as before. The soiled mirror never reflects the rays of the sun. Similarly, those who are impure and unclean at heart and are deluded by Maya never perceive the glory of the Lord. But the pure in heart see the Lord as a clear mirror reflects the sun. Therefore, be pure. When a certain quantity of pure milk is mixed with double the quantity of water, it requires a good deal of time and labor to condense it into kshira, condensed milk. The mind of a worldly person is largely diluted with the filthy water of evil and impure thoughts, and he has to work long and hard to purify it and give it the proper strength and consistency characteristic of a truly pious heart. Why is it that worldly person doesn't give up everything to find God? Can an actor coming on the stage throw off his mask at once? Let worldly people play out their part, and in time they will throw off their false appearance. The soul that is wholly world-bound is like the worm that lives forever in filth and dies there and has no idea of anything better. The soul whose worldliness is of lesser intensity is however like the fly that sits now on filth and now on sugar. The free soul alone is like the bee that always drinks honey and tastes nothing else. The worldly person is like the alligator. As the body of the alligator is not pervious to the strokes of any weapon, and as it cannot be put to death except by striking at the belly, so no matter how much good advice you give to the worldly person, and no matter how much self-disgust you arouse in him, he will never realize his situation fully unless you wean him from the objects of his attachment. The 5th chapter of the Uttarakhand of Adhyatma Ramayana is a conversation between Sri Ramchandra and his brother Lakshman. This is usually called the Ramagita. It is purely Advaitic. Some of the examples given by Sri Ramchandra, they are very nice. A frog is being swallowed by a snake. Even though it knows that it is going to be dead in a few moments, the frog puts out its tongue in the hope it will catch some insects. Similarly, man is being swallowed by the serpent of time, but is still running after transitory sense pleasures instead of remembering me, that is the Divine Lord. These are the examples given in the Ram Gita. A dog bites a dry bone thinking that there is some meat there. It goes on biting the bone. That blood starts to flow from its mouth. The stupid dog, however, thinks that the blood is from the meat of the bone and bites more and more at it. Similarly, man foolishly thinks that happiness lies in external objects and hankers after that. This results in wastage of the body and mind. Instead, if he leaves the bone alone, he will find happiness within. Man is foolish for sense pleasures, even when he knows that death is always round the corner. Similar sentiments are expressed beautifully by Acharya Shankar in the famous composition Bhajagovindam. The ideas are very fantastic there. Dinayaminyau sayam prataha shishira vasantau punarayataha kala kridati gacchatyayuhu tadapina munchatyasha vayuhu. Daylight and darkness, dusk and dawn, winter and springtime come and go. Time plays and life ebbs away, but the storm of desire never leaves. Angam galitam palitam mundam dasana vihinam jatam tundam vruddho yati grihitva dandam tadapina munchatyasha pindam. Strength has left the old man's body. His head has become bald, his gums toothless, and leaning on crutches. Even then, the attachment is strong, and he clings firmly to fruitless desires. So, what should one do? Again, Shankaracharya, in his infinite mercy, comes to our rescue and advises. Mudha janihi, mudha jahihi, dhanagama trishnam, kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrishnam, yallabhase nijakarmopattam, vittam tena vinodaya chittam. O fool, give up your thirst to amass wealth. Devote your mind to thoughts of to the real. Be content with what comes through actions already performed in the past. Actions performed in the past have resulted in the present. That has to work its way out, whether we like it or not. The purpose for which the body was created has to be fulfilled, whether the mind likes to perform its duty or not. Therefore, Shankara asks us to be content, make our mind equanimous and concentrate on the real. Because instead of Because instead of ruminating about samsara, if we devote thoughts to the real, we will ascertain the truth. Where is the world when the truth is known? So, Sri Ramakrishna stresses upon getting rid of most dangerous, ruinous worldliness. The most important teaching we should remember. In order to keep control about the worldly nature, one should make effort to be in constant touch with the spiritual ideas, to be in the spiritual environment as much as possible. At the same time, Sri Ramakrishna says us to be watchful, watching the mind. Don't give the mind free time. Mind wanders and wanders and drags person to downhill. So one should be careful. One should certainly get rid of worldliness. So the less and less worldliness, more and more spiritual inclination. One person asked Sri Ramakrishna, Master, we are all family people. This is a common, common saying of the people. Is it ever possible to realize God while leading the life of a householder? It's a very, very common question and very pertinent question. It's true. Is it ever possible? Sri Ramakrishna gives the hope. At the outset, Sri Ramakrishna said, certainly. Certainly. But one must live in holy company and pray unceasingly. When the impurities of the mind are washed away, one realizes God. It depends upon your intensity of your purpose. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example. The mind is like a needle covered with mud, and God is like a magnet. The needle cannot be united with the magnet unless it is free from mud. Tears wash away the mud, which is nothing but lust, anger, greed and other evil tendencies, and the inclination to worldly pleasures as well. As soon as the mud is washed away, the magnet attracts the needle. That is to say, man realizes God. Only the pure in heart see God. A fever patient has an excess of the watery element in his system. What can quinine do for him unless that is removed? Why shouldn't one realize God while living in the world? But as I said, one must live in holy company. Pray to God, weeping for His grace, and now and then go into solitude. Unless the plants on a footpath are protected at first by fences, they are destroyed by cattle. Then the devotee asked another question. Then householders too will have the vision of God, won't they? Sri Ramakrishna said, everybody will surely be liberated, but one should follow the instructions of the Guru. If one follows a devious path, one will suffer in trying to retrace one's steps. It takes a long time to achieve liberation. A man may fail to obtain it in this life. Perhaps he will realize God only after many births. Sages like Janaka performed worldly duties. They performed them, bearing God in their minds, as a dancing girl dances, keeping jars or trays on her head. Haven't you seen how the women in northwest India walk, talking and laughing while carrying water pitchers on their heads? The devotee asked, Sir, you just refer to the instructions of the Guru. How shall we find him? Sri Ramakrishna said, anyone and everyone cannot be a Guru. A huge timber floats on the water and can carry animals as well, but a piece of worthless wood sinks if a man sits on it and drowns him. Therefore, in every age, God incarnates himself as the Guru to teach humanity. Chidananda alone is the Guru. What is knowledge? And what is the nature of this ego? God alone is a doer and none else. That is knowledge. I am not the doer. I am a mere instrument in his hand. Therefore I say, O Mother, you are the operator and I am the machine. You are the indweller and I am the house. You are the driver and I am the carriage. I move as you move me. I do as you make me do. I speak as you make me speak. Not I, but thou, but thou. Once a father had 3 sons whom he feared were going astray. They were beginning to partake of alcohol, drugs and other activities of which their father did not approve. Every time he approached them, they said, no problem, Dad, we have total control, we can stop whenever we want to. Like that they would say. The father, however, was quite wise. One day, he gathered the 3 sons together and took them into the backyard. He pointed to a small sprout coming up out of the ground. He told one of his sons, uproot that sprout. The son looked surprised at the order, but he reached down and pulled the seedling easily out of the ground. Then the father pointed to a small bush growing by the side of the garden. Pull up this bush. The father told his second son. The bush was not huge, but still its roots were firm in the ground. The son had to reach his arms around the bush and pull hard to uproot it. Finally he succeeded and showed his father the empty hole in the earth where the bush had once grown. Finally, the father pointed to a large tree. He ordered his last son, the biggest one and the strongest of all, uproot this tree. The son looked at his father in dismay. But father, he said, you know, one cannot just uproot a tree with one's bare hands. The father insisted, just try it. You are strong person. Do it. So the youth pulled and pulled with all his might. But the tree did not even budge. His brothers came to help him. Together they pulled and pulled and pulled until their faces were red and hot and their arms ached. But still the tree did not move at all. Finally, they gave up. They could not uproot it. See, said the father, when something is new, barely a sapling, it is easy to uproot. But let it grow into a tree with its roots firmly in the ground, and you will never be able to pull it up again. It is the same with your drugs and alcohol and reckless ways. Abandon them now when they are saplings and small bushes. You will have to work only a little, but do not be ignorant or overconfident, and let them grow their roots into you, or you will never be able to rid yourself of them. In our lives, we frequently put off ending our bad habits until tomorrow. We will start a new diet tomorrow. We will begin to exercise tomorrow. We will stop eating meat and other non-vegetarian foods tomorrow. We will end the relationship which we know is not right for us tomorrow. However, unfortunately, tomorrow rarely comes, and if it does, it is frequently too late. So, uproot the seedling of bad habits before it becomes a tree. Without the commission from God, people, this vanity comes from ignorance. For only an ignorant person feels that he is the doer. A man verily becomes liberated in life if he feels God is the doer. He alone is doing everything. I am doing nothing. Man's sufferings and worries spring only from his persistent thought that he is the doer. You people speak of doing good to the world. Is the world such a small thing? And who are you? Pray to do good to the world. First realize God. See Him by means of spiritual discipline. If He imparts power, then you can do good to others. Otherwise not. And a Brahmo devotee asked a question, Sir, we must give up our activities until we realize God? Sri Ramakrishna said, no. Why should you? You must engage in such activities as contemplation, singing, bhajans, and other daily devotions. But what about our worldly duties? Duties associated with our earning money and so on. Sri Ramakrishna replied, yes, you can perform them too, but only as much as you need for your livelihood. At the same time, you must pray to God in solitude with tears in your eyes, that you may be able to perform those duties in an unselfish manner. You should say to Him, O God, make my worldly duties fewer and fewer. Otherwise, O Lord, I find that I forget Thee and I am involved in too many activities. I may think I am doing unselfish work, but it turns out to be selfish. People who carry to excess the giving of alms or the distributing of food among the poor fall victims to the desire of acquiring name and fame. Shambhu Malik once talked about establishing hospitals, dispensaries and schools, making roads, digging public reservoirs and so forth. I said to him, Sri Ramakrishna said, don't go out of your way to look for such works. Undertake only those works that present themselves to you and are of pressing necessity, and those also in a spirit of detachment. It is not good to become involved in many activities. That makes one forget God. Coming to the Kali Ghat temple, some perhaps spend their whole time in giving alms to the poor. They have no time to see the mother in the inner shrine. It is said beautifully, sow a thought, reap an action. Sow an action, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a trait. Sow a trait, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. We must never allow ourselves to entertain a wrong thought for even a minute. Send it out of your mind like you swat a fly in the house. Nor must we allow ourselves to engage in actions which we know are wrong for even for a moment. Before the moment is over, our actions will have become habits. We must guard our destiny and therefore our characters. Like a vigilant guard protects a castle, allowing no mischievous intruders to enter. However, it is not only bad habits which we must uproot, it is also our ego. In Yajna, one of the most beautiful meanings relates to our own egos. Our egos are also like the seed of a tree. If we water it, nourish it, and let it grow, it will dig its roots into us and be nearly impossible to uproot later. One of the key messages of a spiritual path is to annihilate the ego, to become humble, to surrender oneself to God. However, if the ego's roots have a tenacious grip on us, it is very difficult to be free. However, if one roasts a seed before planting it, then no matter how much it is nourished or watered, it will never grow. Therefore, we offer the seed of our ego to God in the yajna, so that He may burn our ego, so that no matter how much it is watered and nourished by the praise, glory and success we achieve in life, it will never be able to grow and grip our lives. Sri Ramakrishna gives the example of a salt dole. Once it went to measure the depth of the ocean, no sooner did it enter the water than it melted. Now, who could tell how deep the ocean was? That which could have told about its depth had melted. Reaching the seventh plane, the mind is annihilated. Man goes into samadhi. What he feels then cannot be described in words. The eye that makes one a worldly person and attaches one to lust and gold is the wicked eye. The intervention of this ego creates the difference between Jiva and Atman. Water appears to be divided into two parts if one puts a stick across it, but in reality there is only one water. It appears as two on account of the stick. This eye is the stick. Remove the stick and there remains only one water as before. Now what is this wicked eye? It is the ego that says, what? Don't they know me? I have so much money. Who is wealthier than I? If a thief robs such a person of only 10 rupees, first of all he wrings the money out of the thief. Then he gives him a good beating. But the matter doesn't end there. The thief is handed over to the police and he is eventually sent to jail. The wicked eye says, what? Does the rogue know whom he has robbed? To steal my 10 rupees? How dare he? Sri Ramakrishna said, it is true that one or two can get rid of the eye through samadhi. But these cases are very rare. You may indulge in thousands of reasonings, but still eye comes back. You may cut the peepal tree to the very root today, but you will notice a sprout springing up tomorrow. Therefore, if the eye must remain, let the rascal remain as a servant eye. Dasosmi. As long as you live, you should say, O God, thou art the master and I am thy servant. The eye that feels I am the servant of God, I am his devotee, does not injure one. Sweet things cause acidity of the stomach, no doubt, but sugar candy is an exception. The path of knowledge is very difficult. One cannot obtain knowledge unless one gets rid of the feeling that one is the body. In the Kali Yuga, the life of a man is centered on food. He cannot get rid of the feeling that is the body and the ego. Therefore, the path of devotion, bhakti, is prescribed for this cycle. This is an easy path. You will attain God if you sing His name and glories and pray to Him with a longing heart. There is not the least doubt about it. Suppose you draw a line on the surface of water with a bamboo stick. The water appears to be divided into two parts, but the line does not remain for any length of time. The servant eye, or the devotee eye, or the child eye is only a line drawn with the ego and is not real. So, we should cherish devotion, bhakti. Bhakti. Bhakti is the easiest path in this modern age. But whatever path we may follow, most important point is we should maintain the purity level of the mind. That means we must keep the mind as much as possible free from worldly entanglements and involvements, and engaging the mind in devotional practices and associating with holy people and reading of the books on devotion. So we should enhance our devotion to the divine. We must cherish the goal, and you must keep on practicing spiritual disciplines. The more and more the mind becomes pure, the more and more you feel peace and joy in the heart. So, the most important teaching Sri Ramakrishna has said is, uproot the seedling of bad habits before it becomes a tree. And then Sri Ramakrishna said, worldliness ruins a person, so try to control the worldly nature. Sri Ramakrishna has given a lot of instructions in the Gospel. Every page has got instructions, and they are all meant for innumerable seekers. We should take whatever we want. It is open to us. Take what you want and be satisfied. Practice it. Practicing is important. So Sri Ramakrishna would always say, practice, practice, practice. Thank you. Some announcements. Coming Sunday, Swami Vivekananda will speak on the topic Kathopanishad. And we have got Sri Shivanam Sankirtanam on March 14th, Saturday evening after 6 p.m. Aarti. And most important announcement is our retreats begin. 2009 retreats begin. It begins from Chicago. Swami Chidananda ji, the head of our St. Petersburg Center, he will be coming and giving us retreat here in this temple on April 17th, 18th, 19th, Friday through Sunday. Friday at 7:30 p.m. he will speak on success in religious life. Saturday is the retreat day, one-day retreat. It starts morning at 9 o'clock. Necessary steps for a religious life. There is one-day retreat Saturday. And on Sunday, Swamiji will speak on a topic, concept of self-surrender. So, please register your names for the retreat and Swami Chidananda will be coming to conduct the retreat for us, the April retreat. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. May the Lord protect us, may He nourish us, may our knowledge be fruitful and enlightened, may we not hate each other. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.